Welcome to the benediction of our Sunday sunrise service, where we are streaming not a lot earlier than I've ever done because I've done it uh, directly at 6 p.m. But I am trying to get this out of the way because I have some stuff I need to do later on. So let me make sure audio works, and it does. Okay, so just to begin this, it is generally agreed that if someone is running for president, they've already had a term in office, uh, they're pretty much unstoppable. You're not going to see them be ousted from their position. I named a couple of examples during the live show yesterday, where I was talking about how Kennedy challenged Carter in 1980 and lost. Uh, Roosevelt challenged Taft in 1912, lost. Buchanan challenged Bush, lost in 92. So, these are examples of various people who have mounted a challenge against an incumbent and just been defeated. So, with that track record, you would think to yourself that party insiders and various people of high positions wouldn't feel the need to rig anything or make stuff, seem like it was strange or weird, or try to make it appear as though um, they were doing things to help out whoever the incumbent was. But I've actually found an interesting article that I was going to read. I was hoping we could get some people in here, but apparently not. You know, I'm actually going to be knocked out probably, I'd say maybe 50, maybe an hour after this stream is over. I'll just be asleep, 'cause I've been going and going and going. I sometimes I can't believe the amount of just fluctuations in my, I don't want to say schedule, but just, when I get up, when I go to sleep, when I get up, when I go to sleep. And I'm so happy that I was able to at least stay up uh, to this far along, because I was worried that I would have make the same mistake as yesterday, where I was kind of cranky when I got up because I wanted to do the stream at 6. And even though I didn't do it at 6 as I had planned, I still was able to do the live show at 6. So I still made one of them. Let's see, it's working a little hard to find, but basically the gist of it was that the RNC had made moves to where in South Carolina they were just going to nominate Trump, give him all the delegates. And I thought it was funny because it's like no one at all considered that maybe this isn't democracy. Maybe, you should let people vote and then tally the votes. I mean, it's fairly obvious that Trump is going to win. So why exactly do you need to restrict the primary? It's so weird. Um, and I'm saying all this stuff as someone that actually kind of likes Weld. He is the only, just to clarify, he's the one Republican that's running in the primary against Trump. He's good on, if I remember correctly, he's pro-choice. He is pro same-sex marriage, just like very basic stuff. He seems to be adept at. Again, I don't know the full extent of his views on every issue. I'm just saying that from what I've seen, I'm not turned off at all. Uh, which is what makes me think that he has, one of the reasons he has no chance in hell, other than challenging an incumbent, is that he is running against Trump. And like when you have a party where it's all one way or my way, you kind of have to be like the person you're running against, or you just kind of get screwed over. Uh, and I was gonna say, actually, and I caught myself, that this means you have to embrace Trump's ideology. I don't even know what his ideology is. It's like, oh, he's anti-war, except when he says he wants to bomb the you know what out of ISIS, and wants to stay in Syria forever, literally. Like, we're going to withdraw troops, but then leave hundreds more there. That makes a lot of sense. So it's really a pattern of just things that conflict with each other. Like, it's not something where, for as bad as Romney was, the flip flopper thing at least made a little bit of sense because he would say, "Oh, I changed my mind, I evolved, I grew and developed, and blah blah blah." But we're talking about someone saying one thing and then the other concurrently. So is he changing his mind every other day? Is he just that indecisive about what he wants to do? It's really crazy. Uh, I realized I actually moved away from this because I was so interested in. Okay, so in January of this year, the RNC unofficially endorsed Trump. Again, no votes have been held, nothing, just strange things, man. I'm trying to see if I can find the South Carolina one because distinctively in that state, they basically told the voters, "Screw you, we're going to get Trump. We're not even going to let you pick him. We're just going to, shove him in there." And also, I want to point something else out. They've had so I know Weld has at least made appearances at both the NAACP and the Black Journalist Convention, which was in Miami. It was a couple of days ago, right? And at neither of these events did I see any extensive press coverage, any real attention to him at all. And it almost makes me, and I've said before that the media controls how much attention these candidates get and tries to manipulate it in such a way. But it almost makes me think that they really, really, for as much as people like to think the media hates Trump and I said before, they only dislike him for the tweets. They're okay with bombing 7 countries after saying he wouldn't be like his predecessor and all the other stuff we can go into. Um, I'm almost convinced that they would love for him to just stay in office. Like it fuels them because like a couple of them have admitted it's ratings, it's attention grabbing. Uh, so he's not him being away or gone is going to not be so good for um, their numbers, which really is pathetic because I think when you have to sacrifice integrity so you can get ratings, it's really sad, man. Um, I mean, I said before I'd be a much more popular channel if I was an unabashed Trump supporter who kept on saying how great he was and you need to vote for him and all that wonderful stuff. But because I'm not, I prefer to just kind of stay away from this sort of thing. Yeah, they have this graph on CNN of all the days the candidates have spent in Iowa. Just as another note, I want to point something out because this also has to do with this primary. Someone actually said that Biden's team is doing him just like the team for Hillary, where people like to say, "Oh, she would have won if she had campaigned in those states," but they found out that every time she opened her mouth, her favorabilities dropped. So basically, people are saying that because he mostly is just with his advisors and doesn't really give them any public appearances, at least like throughout the campaign for the most part, he essentially is going to just keep seeing they're doing that so they can preserve an image of him that keeps him in at least a decent place ahead of voting. It's really clever. They've realized their candidate sucks and doesn't inspire anybody, and in some cases, kind of creeps people out by the touching and whatnot. So they just basically have said we're going to keep him in a little jar, and if he doesn't like that, or if you don't like that, too bad. But make sure to vote for him. This primary cycle is so weird, man. I still don't know why Weld wanted to get involved in this. And it's like, the RNC has already shown itself to be a corrupt organization, which, I mean, I think the same way with the DNC. So let's not try to play the partisan accusation. But like what gets me is that the DNC is screwed up in the same way. And you can get people on both sides. Actually, I think it's really funny. You can get Republicans to admit the RNC is corrupt but you can't get Democrats to admit the DNC is corrupt. If you see left-leaning people saying the DNC rigged against Sanders and whatnot, it's usually one of his supporters, who more often than not identify as independents. And I said before, I'm registered with the party only so they couldn't kick me, keep me from voting in their primary. But it's really a creepy thing. Let me see, little Elliot. Yeah, you're here for the sunrise for the Sunday sunrise service. I think it's the earliest I've ever streamed. I was just talking about this rigged primary where the Republicans have endorsed Trump for reelection, and the South Carolina um, Republican Party gave him the delegates or committed the delegates to him without even holding a primary. It's 1:30 in England. So are you in England, Elliot, or what? Are you stationed over there? I mean, I'm just asking. I don't know. You have to let me know. Talk to that little strange voice. Yeah, yeah. I'm gonna have to ask all of my subscribers for a directory of all the places they're located. Dude, what CNN is so funny. Just like I'm looking at their headline: New Iowa poll: Biden leads, Warren surges, Sanders sinks. It's like the guy has the most donors out of anybody, and had the second best fundraising quarter besides Buddha Trash. And you guys are going to tell me about someone sinking. So I'm saying they're so distorted, man. Like they think you have to lead in every single poll for you to have a chance or whatever. It's really weird. People are crazy. Also, I was going to mention that we actually have a thing about how like these Republicans they're convinced Weld can't win. They think he has no chance, but then they're doing stuff to ensure that he knows that they're backing Trump. But so it's like again, if you think he has no chance and it's all a fantasy land, if you think there's actually any way he can win, why do you need to do all this stuff to protect him? And what it is that the RNC is not as confident of him as they'd like you to believe, or they're just being douchebags. It's one of those two. They're either not as confident about Trump as they want you to believe, or they're just evil like that. It's one of those two theories, and it's so creepy because like the voters in these states, because it's not like okay. So during the last election cycle, they kept saying things are rigged against Trump. Things are rigged against Trump, which the RNC actually was trying to do, which is why they had the Never Trump movement. And literally now it's rigged in favor of him, and they're like, "Yeah, good, great, yeah." What's happening with that guy who wanted to invade Area 51? What guy? You mean Elliot? That guy? Elliot New? The one that lived in England that said he wanted to come and invade Area 51 and steal our Martians and plunder our UFOs? Is that who you're referring to? I hope not, because that would be pretty scary. I don't want you to take my UFO and my little destroy all human Martians. Oh, Yang. He didn't say he wanted to invade the area. He said he wanted to declassify the documents and whatever was over there. And again, if it's not classified, like we basically what I'm saying is I don't really see a problem with doing that. If it's not some security threat, then what's the problem? Imagine he goes in there and he just sees like all these little aliens getting experiments on. He's like, yeah, we're gonna keep this classified. People don't need to see this nonsense or this strange stuff. They're gonna have like Martian Manhunter in one of the rooms. Yeah, that's why I said destroy all humans. If you remember that game, which just got a remake actually. I find that very amusing because I actually it just sucks to be out of playing those games, and then stuff you used to like is getting some new content. I did too, Elliot. It was one of the first games I played multiplayer with someone on, and the person I played with had a broken controller, so they were basically just exploring the game with me. It was really it was a treat. Yeah, I don't know what else I can add to this. I don't think Welts put out his fundraising totals yet. We've got four other Republicans that people think might get in. They're all kind of meh. You've got the former governor from South Carolina, and he would only be running because Trump didn't endorse him during his primary campaign, and then he lost. And like this is after they had tensions, and he was saying all kind of stuff about Trump in the past. But the point is that he lost, and now he's like itching for revenge. Like he's the arch enemy that the person doesn't even know exists. I just thought that was funny. So him, and then also Kasich, who actually was going to run this election cycle, but thought that Hillary was going to win, so he could try again. I think he'll probably not do it now and then try a few years because he's not that old. So, well, not like old to where he couldn't run again. So he'll probably wait off another 4 years. I gotta get back to work, man. I'll watch the rest later on. Hey, well, thanks for showing up. I appreciate it. Bye. Let me continue on with this. So then we've got Corker from Tennessee. That's the one that announced he wasn't going to run, and then voted against the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, until they slipped a provision in there that would say that saved him $1 million per year. So that tells you he's a man of integrity and of the people. He is another person who was touted from like 2 years ago. Him and Flake, but Flake was like, "Yeah, I'm just going to be on the talk shows now, so I'm not going to bother to show myself or my face or anything anymore." And he's basically withered into nothingness. No one knows or cares about what he has to say or do at this point. Um, but yeah, the field of people that could run is really low. And no one in that group is actually. See, the thing you're going to notice if you look up the potential people that could get in is that they're all no longer in office because for whatever reason, Trump has some kind of effect on people in power to where they're so scared of like the combination of him not liking them and then his voters not liking them that they just take their mouths turn into zippers and they close it shut to anything he does that most of us or a good chunk of us will be like, hey, wait a second, that doesn't really make sense or align too much with our philosophy or positions. But they don't care because they want to get those votes and they'll do whatever it takes. And what's unfortunate is that all these people that are thinking about running against him, or that are running against him, whether it's Weld or uh, the other ones I mentioned, Sanford, Kasich, Corker, Walsh, who I didn't even mention, but he's another one I saw in there. They're all running under the same philosophy of Trump is bad, dangerous, horrible, whatever, and we need to get him out. Really, I think I'm kind of surprised that Tom Steyer didn't run for the Republican nomination. He announced back in January he wasn't going to run, then he changed his mind at the last minute. He's another one of those people where they like no one is offering a vision. Like, you can get as mad as you want, but Trump's whole thing was, "I'm sick of the way things are. This sucks. This sucks. That sucks. This sucks. That sucks. Here's how we fix it." And again, whether you support it or not, there was a feeling among people at that time that they would actually see a change in the status quo. And people start talking about returning to normalcy and let's keep the greatness coming and whatnot. It's like, dude, people are sick of that. The greatness that you think exists is a myth to them. because whatever you've been able to benefit from, they themselves haven't, so they're not going to vote the same way you would. It's not that hard to get something like that, and that's why it's so embarrassing that we actually have to sit here and explain this to people who have conditioned themselves to think that there's like some magical formula you have to use to win the White House. Like, you just have to say Trump sucks and vote for me, and people will flock to you. It's not the way it works, but uh, it's going to be an interesting cycle. The Republican primary probably not so much because again, only two people are in there, and one of them's already the president. Um, so we'll see what happens. But look, thank you for checking this out. I appreciate it, and have a good night, or rather, a good day. Sun hasn't even come up yet.